everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of PharmiVon podcast. The pharmaceutical industry has undergone a remarkable transformation over the past 2 decades. Drug development is no longer confined within the walls of pharmaceutical companies. Today, innovation is driven by a complex ecosystem of pharmaceutical organizations and CROs, technology partners, regulators, and healthcare professionals working together across the globe. Now, at the center of this transformation lies pharmacovigilance, a function that has evolved from simply monitoring drug safety to becoming a strategic pillar of drug development and patient care. Now, as technologies like artificial intelligence, automation, digital platforms continues to reshape healthcare, the relationship between pharmaceutical companies and CROs has become more critical than ever before. So, how do we successfully collaborate, or like how do these successful collaborations happen? How has pharmacovigilance evolved over the years, and what is the future of this global drug development look like? Today, we'll explore all of these questions and more with a leader who has witnessed and shaped this transformation firsthand. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of our viewers, listeners, and healthcare professionals, researchers, and of course, the students joining us from across the country and beyond. I am Garima Kapil, an active member of PharmiVon Media LLP, and I'm delighted to be your host for the episode 15 of our podcast series, where we bring you inspiring conversations with leaders from pharmaceutical and healthcare industries. Now, today's episode is titled From Pharmacovigilance to Global Drug Development, as in Inside the CRO-Pharma Collaboration Engine. A little bit about PharmiVon Media LLP. It is a digital healthcare and life sciences media platform dedicated to bridging the gap between education, research, and industry. Now, through podcasts, educational initiatives, and industry-focused engagements, we aim to empower healthcare and pharmaceutical professionals with practical insights, real-world exposure, and meaningful global connections. Moving ahead, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest for today's episode, a distinguished leader whose career spans more than 2 decades across some of the world's most respected pharmaceutical and life sciences organizations. We're honored to welcome Mr. Gurpreet Singh. Mr. Gurpreet Singh is a life sciences and pharma business leader with more than over 20 years of experience in global drug development, pharmacovigilance, and strategic operations. Throughout his remarkable career, he has leadership positions at globally renowned organizations like Cognizant, Tata Consultancy Services, Novartis, Parexel, and Equivia. At Novartis, he served as the global head of pharmacovigilance operations, overseeing global safety activities and contributing to the advancement of patient safety programs worldwide. Now, later at the Parexel, he worked as a senior director of PV operations, managing pharmacovigilance projects and strategic partnerships for leading pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. Most recently, he served as vice president and managing director of integrated safety at Equivia, where he was responsible for this pharmacovigilance strategy, technology, consulting, and services. A very, very impressive CV, sir. Beyond his corporate achievements, Mr. Gurpreet is a certified Six Sigma professional and project management professional with a strong passion for digital transformation, leadership development, and organization culture. He is also an avid runner and sought after speaker at various pharmaceutical conferences around the world. Welcome to the podcast, sir. It's truly an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you, Garima. Thank you for the warm words.
Right. So, should we just dive into the questions right away?
No, absolutely.
Okay. Perfect, sir. So, we are very excited to learn from your experiences and insights what you have to present us today. So, keeping this questions around the structure of this pharmacovigilance only, my first question to you is, how has the global drug development changed over the span of your 20-year-plus-year journey?
Right. I think global drug development as an industry has evolved significantly in the last 20 years. And many things have actually helped change the way drug development was done in the past. And specifically talking about patient safety or pharmacovigilance has become very important tower within the global drug development. So when I started in the industry 20 years back, and one of the reasons I joined global drug development and patient safety was what I heard in the early 2000s with an issue where a particular drug really caused a lot of side effects and harmful adverse events, resulting in deaths of several patients globally. And that made me think that it's important for me to work in this area. This is the area I would like to work upon. So 20 years back when I started, many of the things that we were doing, the processes were fairly, redundant. There were a lot of areas that we had to work on, especially on technology. Transformation had to be done. And there was a lot of focus that happened on patient safety because of what happened with Vioxx earlier in to the early 2000s. So that really changed how global drug development was perceived. Today, if you look at it, 20 years down the line, global drug development has become a very strong function within pharma organizations. Global pharma is investing about 15% of their annual revenue into drug development. India has become the hub in the last 20 years with all of the GCCs, the CROs, the IT-enabled organizations having their offices in India. We have a significant number of people now working in global drug development in India, and they're contributing to large pharma companies. So it's a dramatic shift. 20 years back when I wanted to hire people in drug development, it was not easy to hire people. But today in India, because of the development, we've got so many good profiles, so many good people that it's very easy for us to hire talent in India. So there's a complete evolution that's happened right from processes, technology, and the availability of people and skill set in the last 20 years.
So, sir, what do you think has been the single biggest driver of this evolution, this shift that has been occurring since Abhi? Thoda.
I think the single biggest shift has been two reasons. One is obviously large pharma has realized, including mid-sized pharma, that there are still a lot of diseases for which we need drugs, which we need medicines which can help cure patients, help their lifestyle modification. So there's a lot of work that global pharma, large pharma, mid-sized pharma are doing. In the last 10, 15 years, a lot of small biotech and pharma companies have come up who are really specializing in certain areas so that they could come up with molecules to solve those problems. Plus the fact that global drug development being an intensive area where there is requirement not only of scientific aspect but also in terms of delivering within the budget. There has been a lot of focus that companies have now brought in terms of investing, getting the drugs to the market at a faster speed, and making sure that they are compliant and ensuring patient safety. So those are the very, I would say, important aspects that has resulted in the growth of drug development globally.
Okay. So my next question is around your personal experience at Novartis. So you led the global pharmacovigilance operations at Novartis, right? So how did that experience shape your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, I think that was one of the best experiences of my life, of my career, when I worked with Novartis. Being the global head for PV operations was in a way a significant achievement, because before me, all of the global head roles were fairly in Switzerland or in US. So that was the first global head pharmacovigilance role in India, and to get that to that level, there was a lot of credibility that we had to build. Being an Indian GCC, it was important for us to really demonstrate that a lot of the work could happen from India. And I think it was very then logical for me to kind of take up that role. Now, what that really helped me is to kind of manage global teams. My teams were based out of across the world, Europe and Japan, and I think the important aspect there was I really learned how to work across different cultures. It also, played an important role in my leadership style. Novartis as a company had a very good culture of making sure that people are involved. The people who are actually doing the work are involved in everything that you do. So I was also the culture champion when I was at Novartis, where I was driving this culture of innovation and really bringing in that collaboration bottoms up, right from the people who are actually working to taking ideas to the next level. That really changed my way of working on my leadership style to really make it more inclusive, more empathetic, and drive collaboration and innovation. And I think, like I said, one of the best experiences of my career, professional career so far.
So you said that that experience as a whole changed a lot about how you view leadership as, right? So what leadership lessons from that role still guide you today in your
I think
current
one of
role?
the most I think one of the most important lessons was, that as a leader, it's important for me to have a purpose. For me to really have the strategy and the vision, which then obviously I have to share with the team. Many a times, you create this strategy and vision by working with the team, collaborating with the team, getting their ideas, and then creating a shared goal or a shared purpose. Once that shared goal, shared purpose is available, then I think it becomes very easy for the team to be able to drive and achieve that. So, as a leader, I think what I believe, and this is my philosophy of leadership ever since I worked in Novartis, is your job is to guide your team and make your team successful. Your role is not to be on the stage. Your role is to make your team be on the stage while you really kind of help them to find out how to be successful. So that has always been the philosophy of my career. But working in Novartis, I think the concept of a shared vision, a shared purpose, and bringing in that collaboration and making your team successful was very evident from the work that I did there.
That's very fascinating to hear, sir. So, how has pharmacovigilance evolved beyond simply being just a compliance function?
Pharmacovigilance has actually become a very important function in the last 15, 20 years, especially in the past. I think the focus was more about just driving quality and compliance of operations. But today we are actually talking about proactive pharmacovigilance. We do not want to be reactive. For example, when I spoke about Vioxx in the early 2000s, it took us a couple of years to identify that the myocardial effects or the heart effects that happened were because of the Vioxx drug. So it took us a couple of years of data. But today, if you look at it, anything that happens, we fairly know in real time. I'm not saying it happens on a daily basis, but it takes us a month or a couple of months to be able to act upon it and prevent large-scale damage or impacting many patients. So pharmacovigilance has become, moved from being very reactive to fairly proactive. Obviously, there's more work to be done in the next 3-4 years. With more of technology coming in, pharmacovigilance will become more proactive. But the idea is really ensuring patient safety, risk minimization, and managing signals in such a way that we are able to, prevent an adverse event from happening, rather than, wait for the adverse event to happen and impact patients at large. So that's a fairly long, I would journey that's happened in the last 20 years now.
Right, right. So, and sir, what separates a strategic CRO partnership from a typical vendor relationship?
That's a very nice question, something which is very close to my heart. If you look at it, when I started in the pharma industry, I was working with some of the strategic providers like Cognizant and TCS. And back in the day, the outsourcing partnerships were very transactional. There, I think the term vendor used to be used because it was, we give a work, the pharma company gives a work to the partner and the partner delivers it. But the outcome or the quality compliance was all responsibility of the pharma company. But that has changed now. In the last 10, 15 years, it is more about, when a pharma company outsources to a partner, he expects the person not only to deliver good on quality and compliance, but also to help with the strategy, also to help with innovation, also to really, work towards making sure they are inspection ready at any point of time. So the partnerships have really moved from being very transactional, something that was more of a vendor kind of relationship, to now being strategic long-term partnerships where the service provider is responsible for consulting, technology, services, inspection readiness, and making sure that the pharma company, does not have any impact on the PV system. So now it's become a very strong ecosystem where the PV company and the CRO work like long-term partners. And that's really, again, and part of the evolution that's happened in the last 20, 25 years now.
So, sir, what mindset shift is required from the both sides to build the true partnerships that they have?
Right. I think, and something that, I've also done in the past, few years I've having worked here is, one of the most important things is first to believe that you're partners, right? Many a times, the concept of a pharma outsourcing to a service provider, you create that mindset that, you have outsourced, so they are responsible to deliver, and you kind of, can stay away from it. It doesn't work that way. Both parties have to be equally involved, and I always say this. It's not a very great example, but I can share that. It's like a marriage. You have to make it work. Many cases the marriages work, many cases they do not work. But Successful marriages work because both the partners are committed to it. They want to make sure it works. There are obviously some gaps on both sides. How do you really fill those gaps? There are some strengths which the service providers have. They are strong in operations. They are strong in operational excellence. And there is some strength which the pharma companies have, which is they are strong in science. They are strong in, various activities related to the pharmacovigilance part. So both of them have to really utilize each other's strengths, complement each other, and move forward instead of, identifying each other's weaknesses and trying to pin each
Yeah.
other down. And that's exactly how it happens in a marriage. And a husband or wife have to really make sure they work each other's strengths and they try to build a strong family foundation. The same thing I always think, it works for a partnership with a pharma and a CRO in that way.
No, so marriage is a very good example to correlate partnership, how it should work, the balance, yin and yang.
And
Yes.
I
So
know
obviously,
I was at sorry, Garima, I was at a conference and I made this example and somebody said, "What about
right.
divorces?" And I said, if the partnership doesn't work, well, the pharma company and CRO should decide to move away. That's also logical because you've made every
Yeah,
effort, you've
right.
worked hard 10 years, you've made it work. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So accept it, right? But first of all,
Yeah.
make sure you give your complete commitment and make it work. That's
Hmm.
important.
Yeah, incompatibility issues arise, and that's like inevitable. You can't do anything about it.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So, what are the most common mistakes you've observed in pharma CRO collaborations?
I think the biggest mistake is the lack of a clear governance structure. Many companies, although they may have on paper a governance structure, the actual implementation of the governance, making sure that both the teams are actively talking to each other, communicating to each other, and if there are any issues, bringing it to the attention of the leadership. I think that's the most key element. The second is having clear metrics, clearly defining what the objectives are, what success looks like, and how those objectives will be managed or monitored by both the teams. And the third, and I think the other important aspect, is what is the benefit that each organization is getting. These are the three important elements. The pharma company should get the benefit of operations, operational efficiency. The CRO should obviously then, get the benefit of learning the science part, and it should be a win-win for both the parties. If let's say the CRO is not being paid well, or if the pharma company is having a challenge with quality, it doesn't work. So you have to also find, it should be a win-win for both organizations in terms of, profitability, efficiency, and the partnership as a whole. So that's what I think is the key part for these partnerships.
Right. So let's shift our conversation to more of AI and automation. So,
Okay.
how is AI transforming pharmacovigilance today?
So that's one of the most passionate areas since 2017, actually, when very few people were
Yeah.
working on technology and AI. I have been involved in that. I did a program from Indian School of Business, and then we started doing some robotic process automation, machine learning. So I've been a fan of digital transformation for more than 10 years now. I think it's one of the most exciting phases for students and career people who want to make a career in pharmacovigilance. Technology is really shaping the way it will look like in future. Gone are the days when people used to get adverse event reports as paper cases, process them on a manual database, and
Right.
someone submit it. Everything is now being driven by generative AI, taking it to the level of agentic AI. So the next 3.5, 4 years are very exciting. I think the way I look at it is the first 5 years of this decade, 2021 to 2025, was more about what we could do, how we could do. From 2025 onwards, we've started implementing many of these solutions. We can already see some good efficiencies, productivity gains, and the next 2-3 years are going to be even more exciting within pharmacovigilance. So a lot of work happening, and I think it's an exciting space to be in at this point of time.
So like we're talking about what's going to happen in the future of the pharmacovigilance. So, which technologies will define the future of drug development?
I think all of the technologies are playing an important role, right from the journey of robotic process automation to machine learning to generative AI. And now we're talking about
Right.
agentic AI. All of these technologies are playing roles. For example, automation has helped some amount in case processing, about 15% efficiency. AI will, bring some additional benefit on top of that. So all of these technologies are contributing in some way. The machine learning is playing a very important role in the literature process. Aggregate report and signal management are going to benefit a lot from generative AI. So all of these technologies are helping some way or the other, each of the overall landscape of pharmacovigilance. What's important really is how do we use these technologies effectively? One technology cannot answer all the situations or challenges, and therefore we may have to use a pool or a set of technologies to really address a particular challenges. For example, in the past there was a lot of issue with unstructured data to structured data, so we had to use OCRs to convert the unstructured to structured, so that that technology could then help in the next step. So a combination of technologies is what is going to help us to overall deliver the efficiency and productivity that we require in this space.
Right. So, sir, but which emerging technology excites you the most? That you are the most excited to work with this technology in future?
Definitely agentic AI. Definitely agentic AI. That's one area where I believe it's going to be a game changer. I mean, I'm sure all of you know about agentic AI. It's one of the most advanced technologies. With it coming into picture, and already many of the industries are using. If that gets really implemented well, we could really see, a lot of the manual effort being managed by the system, like a human being itself, and the human being will actually be used for the actual skills, which is scientific skills, and how those scientific skills can then use to make sure we are doing good work. So the agentic AI, working as an agent for you as a human being is going to be one of the most exciting things to see in pharmacovigilance in the next few years.
Right, sir. So we were talking about more of the working culture that you had at Novartis, like how encouraging it was. So how do you think, like how important is organizational culture when implementing transformation programs? How is it? What is the significance?
And honestly, I think that is true for all of the organizations I've worked. Cognizant, TCS, Novartis, Parexel, IQVIA. One of the reasons these large companies are doing so well is because they've built a very strong culture. And the culture is about really collaborating, driving innovation. If you look at my role, the way I've grown in these last 5 companies, I've always got the right opportunities. I've obviously found out opportunities, and there have been opportunities for me to develop myself, grow myself, and grow in the career. So I think culture plays a very important role in the growth of an individual. When you have the right environment, the right culture, and you have the right people working with you, it helps you to then get motivated and move your career forward. And I think I've been very fortunate that these 5 big companies that I've worked for, I've always got a very strong positive culture, which has then helped me to build my career and be where I am today.
Right. So it's very nice to hear. So, like, how can leaders balance innovation with regulatory compliance?
See, regulatory compliance is the most important aspect in pharmacovigilance. I mean, if you do not have regulatory compliance and quality, there is a 100% chance you'll get an inspection finding. Recently, one of the large pharmas had a very critical finding because of that. So compliance and quality is non-negotiable today, right? Now, as a leader, obviously I need to make sure I'm quality and I am ensure that my team is delivering the required quality and compliance. But at the same time, I do not want to be too dependent on manual process for a long time. So there has to be a very fine balance. We are actually, if you are aware of this, we are working very closely with health authorities on all of our technologies and innovations. We are making sure they are aware of that. And most of the technologies that we are using are, as pilots. We are putting them in place. We are, checking the proof of concept. We are seeing how the quality compliance is impacted. If we are seeing it's not impacted in the right way, then we obviously work hard to make it better. And that's how, we are going slow and steady to make sure technology and regulatory compliance do not, counter each other. So both have to go hand in hand. Compliance and quality is non-negotiable. Technology has to help us to improve that. And that should be done in a phased approach rather than doing one big bang approach for that.
That makes complete sense, sir. So, sir, what skills should aspiring pharma professionals and future leaders focus on when they're trying to develop something around the pharmacovigilance today?
See, I think this is essentially the skill that everybody in pharmacovigilance requires. And the first thing I believe is pharmacovigilance, you need to have a strong learning agility. It's one area which is deeply scientific. I think many people just keep talking about technology, but I always believe it's science. You cannot have anybody do pharmacovigilance. You need to have the understanding of science. You need to have a passion for patient safety, and you need to have the understanding of the products that you have. So that science part is non-negotiable. People have to have a strong learning agility. If somebody wants to move from a case processing job to finally end up, managing the business, the person has to have a strong learning agility to continue learning new things and build up the career. So again, learning agility becomes an important part. The other element is really the soft skills part, the ability to collaborate, the ability to work across different global cultures. Communication plays a very important role. Communication does not mean good English. It means being able to really communicate exactly what you're talking about, your ideas, your thoughts. So collaboration, communication, working across global cultures. I think the most important element is, when you're working in pharmacovigilance, you should be passionate about patient safety. If you are working in pharmacovigilance, not because, you're there for money, because obviously there are many industries which can give you money. It's about you believe that, your work day in and day out can contribute to patient safety more effectively. And when you do that, then I think, the job becomes more of fun than, it being a 9 to 5
Right.
job. So that's where many years of my career, and many students ask me this question, what about, pharmacovigilance having 12 hours, 15 hours of work? I said, I've never felt that, because when you're passionate about patient safety or pharmacovigilance, the number of hours do not matter. What matters is, are you being able to contribute
Definitely.
to what you want to do? Yeah.
Definitely. So that's something I also personally believe, that if you have fun at your job, you'd want to wake up in the morning and go to your job, rather than you shouldn't feel like something out of just inspired, like despite of like you're doing just for the sake of living. You should be having
And
fun with it.
and
Definitely.
I tell people, if you're not interested in going for a job, or if Monday mornings you feel that you're tired already, do not do that job. Find a job where you're energized on Monday morning to go to office and meet people and solve it. And that's where you need to really kind of people need to develop their careers. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So, sir, we have a thing called rapid fire round here. So, what I'm
Okay.
going to do, I'm just going to ask you a question, and you have to give me the answer in a very short form, or something that pops out in your mind, the first thing that you think of when you hear the question.
Are,
Okay.
are these going to be are these going to be tough or easy ones?
No, no, it's a very, very small, very vague question.
Bring
So,
it on. I'm
for
ready. Bring it
example,
on.
my
Yeah.
my first question to you is pharma or CRO?
Hmm. I think both. Both are
Both.
indispensable. Both cannot work with each other without each other, and therefore, and
Right.
I've worked with both. I think both create that ecosystem. So for me, the answer is both.
Perfect, sir. So, okay, next question is, one must have technology for future PV leaders or not?
100%, 100%. Any leader who does not have understanding of technology or focus of technology will not have a job few years from now, because that's where the industry is moving. So 100%.
Perfect, sir. And the next question is, what is the top most leadership trait that you think there is?
I think the most important leadership trait is empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of your people, and there is no substitute for empathy. Once as a leader you develop the empathy, you put yourself in your people's shoes, it is very easy for you to then drive what you want to achieve as a leader. So empathy is number one for me.
Perfect, sir. Perfect. Okay. So, what is the biggest future challenge for the pharmaceutical industry?
The biggest future challenge in my view is the adoption of AI. And when I say that, while everybody is talking about AI, the biggest challenge is, will people be able to embrace it? Are the people ready? And is the leadership or is the industry doing enough to make people ready? So I think the adoption of AI within the pharmacovigilance space and drug development is going to be a big challenge. It's going to be a big culture change, but I'm sure the industry is gearing up to address that challenge. So that's where I think is going to be a important area for us.
Right, right. So, my last question to you is, running or boardroom?
Wow, that's a difficult one. Both of them are my favorite. I think again the answer for this will be both running and boardroom. Both are my passions. If you ask me, I love running, because I think that helps me to stabilize myself, bring my thoughts together. A lot of my
Right.
strategic thoughts come while I do running. And the boardroom I love because the strategies which I have thought during running, I can present that at the boardroom. So there's no point in keeping those ideas with me. So I think it's both running and boardroom.
One cannot exist without the another. Right.
Like the pharma and CRO question, both are
Yeah,
interrelated.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, sir. Okay, so last question to you for this podcast is, what would be your one key advice for the current and the future farmer leaders?
I think one of the biggest advice that I have for everybody who wants to work in pharma, drug development, and pharmacovigilance is keep learning. Do not
Right.
assume that you know everything. There is so much more to learn, and the moment you stop learning, that's when your career stops. So keep learning, keep taking up new challenges, and keep building your skill sets so that you can be successful here.
That's a very wonderful message to end on, sir. So, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experiences, insights, and leadership journey with us today. I had great fun talking to you on these questions. It was very inspiring to hear your perspective on this pharmacovigilance, drug development, digital transformation, leadership, and so what not we have covered in this whole episode. So, and to everyone listening, whether you're a student, researcher, healthcare professional, or industry leader, we hope today's conversation gave you very valuable insights into the future of the pharmaceutical industry. And if you enjoyed this episode, do share it with your colleagues, peers, and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover in the future episodes. And until next time, this is Garima Kapil signing off from the PharmiVon podcast. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
PharmiVon Media, your voice in pharma and healthcare media.